It's great to be with you today. I'm blessed to live on 150 acres in the woods. We are working on building a Christian retreat center to provide a place for others to set apart and reflect on God's mission for their lives. Being surrounded by wildlife, I take time to feed the birds during the winter. Even the deer and the turkeys enjoy coming to eat during these challenging days. Being a man of extremes, I thought that 10 bird feeders would be much better than just one. It takes me about 45 minutes to fill the bird feeders and about 125 pounds of bird seed. One day in particular was a hard day of work, and I was coming home to an empty house since my wife was out of town. I was looking forward to a relaxing evening after a long day, but then I remembered that the bird feeders were empty. As I headed home, I thought about the various ways that God has blessed me. The forecast for 8 inches of snow and the empty bird feeders meant that I hadn't kept up with my responsibilities. The birds were destined to be disappointed. Despite being tired, I knew it was time for the sacrament of feeding the birds. I went out in the dark with my lantern, braving the blistering cold winds on my hands as I placed the bird seed in and around the feeders. Every bird that decided to stop by would be satisfied. This act of feeding the wildlife during the winter times acts like a type of communion for me. Through participating in that regular church sacrament, we remember Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection, along with the power we get through being healed from the self-centeredness and sin that so easily besets us. The spiritual ritual of feeding the birds through the winter's hardest days reminds me of God's concern for each of us. This twice-a-month sacrament during November through March reminds me of this verse found in Matthew 6, verse 26. Look at the birds of the air. They don't plant or gather crops. They don't put away crops in storerooms. But your Father who is in heaven feeds them. Aren't you worth much more than they are? On days when you and I feel particularly challenged, we must remember the birds. Participating in certain actions that remind us of God's love, care, and presence reinforces our faith. God, you love my friends who are listening to this. You know their wounds, disappointments, and sinful struggles. They may feel alone, weak, and discouraged. They see the various seeds of hope, comfort, and support that you are preparing for them. May they feed on your guidance and presence in their lives. Amen.